Hey everybody, this is Matt Reed, certified ADHD coach, certified life coach from The In Place, ADHD coaching, www.theinplace.net. Coming to you guerrilla style from my wife's SUV as my youngest is in dance class today. I had to get this off my chest. I want to air some grievances today. I don't know if this is going to be linear, if it's going to be super coherent. I'm probably going to do a similar theme for my written blog this week, which I normally don't do. I try to select different topics, but I've got some stuff stuck in my craw that I feel needs to get out into the world. I'm going to try to do it in one take and see how that goes. Here's the deal. Psychiatric medication, psychiatric disorders, shall I say, are inherently barriers to their own treatment. If you have ADHD, you're probably disorganized and struggle with executive function. So, making appointments, getting to appointments, refilling your meds, picking them up, making sure you take them are all going to be difficult. It would behoove the medical establishment, if their interest is to really take care of us, to make that process as simple as possible. Period. Depression makes it very difficult to sometimes get out of bed, let alone follow through with our doctors. Let them know when things aren't working, when things are getting worse, to make it to appointments, to pick up medication, to be medication compliant when things don't feel like they're working that well. Period. Anxiety, which I feel is a borderline public health emergency in this country, makes everything about seeking care difficult. Side note, there are actually some people who were helped by telehealth during the pandemic because their anxiety was less about meeting with a doctor over the computer instead of in person. Interesting use of telehealth. Great thing that we learned through the tragedy of the pandemic for that portion of the population, period. Here's the thing. The medical establishment comma, the insurance establishment, comma, the federal government do not make getting help for psychiatric and behavioral health issues easy. In fact, they make it so much harder than it has to be. Personal example from my life. ADHD is my primary diagnosis. I've been diagnosed since I was 9 or 10, almost 35 years. Just due to the nature of the severity of my ADD, how I'm wired, what's going on in my brain, how I respond to medication. I respond very well, but I need a lot of medication to make me functional. And many times during my life, it's been a fight with insurance companies to get pre-authorizations for the medication that I've taken for years. Getting what I need when I need it without an interference has been a challenge. And I'm a guy who's mastered my ADD and my executive dysfunction, and it's still a lot of work for me. Now you add in my 2 mentally ill kids who are regularly changing medications trying to find something that works. I could be picking up 18, 19 medications at the pharmacy a month. I work very hard to try to keep all of that in sync, so I'm at the pharmacy once a month to pick up. And I always joke that my most important relationship is my wife, my second most important is my prescribing physician, and my third most important is my pharmacist. And by joking, I mean not joking at all. I have a great relationship with my pharmacist, who has been pulling aside an extra month worth of Adderall, Ritalin, all of the stimulants that we take, so that we basically get first come, first serve, because she knows how much we need it. And I love her for that. It's absolutely unconscionable that we need to be in that situation, and that we need to be in that situation 5 months into this stimulant shortage and years into this repetitive situation. At its essence, we are fighting a puritanical government that doesn't want pharmacology to help people if there's even a sniff of somebody might get high. Unless somebody's making a shit ton of money. When's the last time you heard about someone overdosing on Ritalin? Ever? It's really hard. I know someone who tried in high school, and she didn't. It's really hard. The instances of catastrophic side effects with stimulants are extremely low. I don't have a source to cite that. Do your own research. You'll find out it's true. When's the last time you heard someone ODing on Oxy? Because there's an epidemic of that. Yet the DEA makes it harder and harder and harder for those of us to get the stimulants that we need. Because more people are diagnosed with ADHD because we're hip to catching it more. When I was a kid, it was thought to be only a childhood disorder, and that everyone grew out of it. And then doctors like my former doctor, Dr. Biederman, who unfortunately just passed away, who led the world in ADHD research, did study after study that showed only about 15% of ADHD cases remit in adolescence, meaning it's a legitimate developmental disorder in those people. For the rest of us, it's here to stay, and it persists into adulthood. Okay, so that quintuples the population of people with ADHD. Well, also, when I was a kid, all the statistics said 5 to 1, boys to girls. Well, last time I looked, which was maybe 5 years ago, it was 5 to 3. My practice tells me that we're heading closer to 1 to 1, because all of the recent research indicates that ADHD affects girls and women very differently. They cope better, they internalize more, and they don't get diagnosed until later in life, especially if they're not hyperactive. So we're seeing more diagnosis. Now, I don't doubt that there are some people being misdiagnosed, and there are some people having Ritalin thrown at them because they don't know what's wrong. But is that a reason not to treat people who really have ADHD? That's ridiculous. Do we err on the side of caution? I mean, I think of the axiom about the justice system. It's better to let 10 guilty men go free than one innocent man go to jail. I think it's better to make 10 mistakes, well-intentioned as they are, than to force some person you know has ADHD to suffer, to hold the line on a quota by the DEA, not even the FDA, not the Food and Drug Administration, who, granted, has been gutted by the last several administrations and doesn't have nearly enough employees or power to do its job. But we're talking about the DEA. Their sole job is to keep illegal drugs out of the hands of Americans. Do we want them regulating my Concerta, my Metadate? No. Any more than I need them to manage my antidepressant. That's the job for my doctor, my other doctor, my pharmacist, and yes, some governmental oversight by doctors, not law enforcement agents. We need to ask ourselves as a society, are we coming from a place of love? Are we coming from a place of helping? Are we coming from a place of empathy? Or are we just arbitrary fascist gatekeepers? Because this has been coming down the pike for a long time. And it didn't need to happen. It doesn't need to continue to happen. And it needs to stop. We need to make it easier for those of us who are suffering the most to get the help that we need. I'm Matt Reed, theinplace.net ADHD coach. Thanks for listening. Call or email your congressperson. Give them hell. I know I'm gonna.